Imagine a city where graffiti wasn't illegal, a city where everybody could draw whatever they liked, where every street was awash with a million colours and little phrases, where standing at a bus stop was never boring. Seeing Banksy or anonymous street art is a daily occurrence in Bristol. It brightens up what would ordinarily be dulled, dirty walls or footpaths. Why is it Bristol that has embraced this? Is it the anonymous street artist that grew up here? The Barton Hill district of Bristol in the 1980s was a scary part of town. When Banksy, who was from a leafier part of Bristol, ventured here, he was inspired by local artists and his work was part of the larger Bristol underground scene at the time. Banksy spent time at the Barton Hill Youth Centre and became one of Bristol's dry breads crew.
Bristol's always had a big Jamaican population and you had a lot of influence from the US, and it seemed that like London and Bristol were getting stuff before most of the other cities in the country.
A lot, of it is a part of a culture, and that come from hip hop. So people were painting graph and dancing, and MCing and making music and doing lots of other things as well, and also creating trouble down the local shops.
I kind of grew up seeing that, and it was around Clifton and stuff, really nice graffiti, really nice backgrounds, and just it kind of perfectly went with the city at the time. So it exploded straight then.
So how did Banksy break away from what stereotypically was an underground scene and make it as an accepted mainstream artist? What made him switch from freehand to his iconic stencil pieces? He was in the middle of painting a train with a gang of mates when the British Transport Police showed up. Everyone ran, but Banksy got ripped to shreds as he tried to make his escape.
The rest of my mates made it into the car and disappeared, so I spent over an hour hidden under a dumper truck with engine oil leaking all over me. As I lay there, I realised I had to cut my painting time in half or give up altogether. I was staring straight up at the stencil plate on the bottom of a fuel tank when I realised I could just copy that style and make each letter 3 feet high.
His style quickly set him apart from the massive street artists, but his political and visual wit made him stand out too.
When I started doing graffiti, if you used stencils, it was taboo, and you were seen as being a bit of, you didn't have the talent to use the can. Looking back at it, I probably would have used them quicker. I've thought about it because you can do a really intricate piece very quickly. We were doing 3 or 4 hour illegal paintings.
Other street painters see his work as little more than a sequence of stunts and believe street art should stay in the street and not in neat frames on gallery walls. Is he still a street artist?
Well, that's a good question. What is street art? I think street art is street art when it happens in the street. I think when street artists work in galleries, it's something different.
To me, as a graffiti artist, it's all about going out and doing naughty stuff and putting your name up as big as you can.
I think most of Banksy's gallery work, it still carries that street aesthetic, and it still carries through a lot of the ideas that he seems to be working with when he's actually producing the work in the street.
In 2004, he distributed spoof banknotes with Diana's face at Reading Festival and Notting Hill Carnival. 2005 brought Banksy stencil scenes of paradise on Israel's West Bank wall. In 2006, he held a barely legal exhibition in Los Angeles. This included a real-life elephant in the room, which in this case was painted bright pink, and he gained a reputation and A-list celebrities purchased his artwork. Many admire the humorous and subversive nature of his artwork. However, there are just as many who regard it as simply criminal.
I mean, obviously we're really biased to have it. We're thinking graffiti is, or like street art, illustration, it's all amazing, yeah. But personally, I can't think of anything better than seeing a beautiful piece of painting on the wall than boring bricks and crumbling buildings.
When we were painting Weapon of Choice, like when we had a show back, like there was an old lady that walked past who was complaining, going, "Oh, this is so wrong. You shouldn't be doing that." It's like, well, it's a gallery. We've been asked to. And she was like, "Oh, God."
Of course, Banksy began his career anonymously because what he was doing was essentially, for all intents and purposes, illegal. But now he has been accepted in the art world, why does he not embrace the public attention? In a rare interview with a BBC reporter, Banksy claimed that not even his parents know that he is Banksy and believe their son is a painter-decorator. Why has Banksy become famous at all? Street art in the big time was to impress other street artists, but not to make money.
He pays for PR. He photographs everything he does and sends it straight out to newspapers, which other graffiti artists don't do. A lot of graffiti artists and street artists do it for themselves because they love doing it, and they're not so about the promotion side of it. His was more about the promotion side of it and marketing it. To be honest, maybe we were all a little bit lazy, but he kind of gave it a kick up the arse in terms of like he actually came with this concept of like the whole kind of PR marketing side of it.
Part of it is his work being the sort of work it is, and also partly his anonymity has helped fuel his success. So in terms of Bristol, there was a strong scene. He came up through that strong scene. He didn't make it happen. He was part of a scene which was already emerging in the city.
In his hometown of Bristol, the council let the public decide if Banksy's painting of a naked man hanging out the window should be kept. 97% of voters decided they wanted it saved. The naked man was attacked with blue paint by Bristol Rovers fans who took offence at an alleged insult to their team by Banksy and threw blue paint bombs at the wall hanger in revenge.
I think it's disgusting, really. I mean, why do they have to do that? I think it looked good as it was, and now you've absolutely, you've ruined it, haven't you, really?
To be honest, that vandalism there just seems to add to it, I think, that particular one. But if they started scrawling words on it, probably a bit different, but I don't see that as a problem.
When Banksy artwork is now found around the world, they are either preserved or, because of their worth, literally cut out of the wall. Banksy's artwork in Bristol is clearly popular, but even with its high status, it doesn't stop it being covered over, like his masked gorilla in July 2011, by mistake. But Banksy claims in his film Exit Through the Gift Shop, it's not about the money. That's why in 2009 Banksy thanked his hometown by putting on a free exhibition for the city.
The exhibition came about in 2009 after we were approached by Banksy, who had an exhibition of animatronic work in New York, and he was interested in bringing those to Bristol. The million-dollar question was who knew, and did you ever meet Banksy? Very few staff knew, or it was kept very secretive. Public reaction was really genuinely very, very positive. People flocked, as you know, from all over the world to come to see this exhibition. Obviously this piece behind me, which is the paintbot angel, or angel bust as it's known, which to me sums up really the whole kind of exhibition, in that it was a massive clash of cultures.
Banksy's 2009 exhibition has left a lasting impression on Bristol. The major street art show of 2011, See No Evil, and the annual Upfest, Urban Paint Festival, which have become part of Bristol's zeitgeist.
To me, it was kind of pride for the city to try and make it. It's always been one of the capitals in the UK for graffiti, but really to make it the place. So we just amalgamated all the ideas and came up with a Nelson Street concept and just went from there.
Councillors were divided over the impact graffiti would have on the city, some warning it could make the city look impoverished in years to come.
One Conservative councillor, who I think the Conservative Party actually disowned, was just going on about how can we get permission to graffiti and all this stuff.
There is a risk around the legacy, so what happens now to that street? Because the funding isn't there to support lots of it happening again, so there is a risk around it degenerating.
And this is what can be achieved. What is happening here in Bristol reflects what is happening in the global art scene. Instead of just taking one wall, whole areas are being transformed. Taking a drab concrete building and using the architecture and the environment around it to create something beautiful.
The fact that Banksy is from Bristol will certainly have affected Bristol's attitude to street art.
It's opened the doors for a lot of people, so people who weren't recognised are now getting seen. It's exposed Bristol, but also just worldwide.
Everybody in the world knows Bristol because that's where Banksy's from.
There's always an incredible underlying thread of wit and social comment.
Political, it's with a small p, it's subversive, and it's anti-establishment.
You know, graffiti's always going to be here. It might be tags, it might be like, you know, the tag stuff you see in here. But at the end of the day, it's just layering and layering and layering. And it's like, as long as it's not done on a listed building like a Georgian building, I've got no problem with it. If it's done on drab concrete, bring it on.
The boy from Bristol grew up to be Banksy, and Bristol followed suit. After all, Banksy is an artist, an inspiring one. A cocky one-liner perhaps, a filmmaker, a sculptor, and definitely a new definition of painter, but a Bristol legacy all the same.